First Contact with Joshua Put.
Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. Talk about all these things we're talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
It's time to demand the truth.
All right, time to demand the truth. Indeed. How you doing, my friends? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Glad you could be here. It is Wednesday. It is the 21st of October. The big election that we're all waiting for is getting closer and closer. Less than 2 weeks away now. A lot at stake with what's going on here in America this time. We have two different paths that we seem to be going. One path is the path that is the path of socialism, which ultimately leads to communism, and one path is to continue on the path of America first. This whole ideology that's going on out there is something that is not new. This ideology that is being pushed by the left primarily, but also with a number on the right, the rhinos, is a policy that's a New World Order agenda that's been in place for a long, long time. Go back to the time when John F. Kennedy was killed, 1963. That was the deep state that killed Kennedy. That same deep state has embedded itself throughout the world, throughout America, in all different phases of life. In the 70s, late 70s, 1977, the commission that about intelligence that was put on the Church Committee determined that there were over 400 CIA analysts working at that time in mainstream media. They also uncovered the MKUltra program. So the deep state was really strong at that point. It was verified and confirmed through these congressional hearings that were taking place. And over the years, it's just embedded itself more and more and more. So here we are. The deep state is really making its last big effort. Not to mention, we also have the Muslim Brotherhood, who for the last 30 years have been trying to take over America. You can find their plans at the website, firstcontactradio.com website. Go look at the past stories. I've got a lot of links to the Muslim Brotherhood. So they've been embedding themselves. Obama was bringing in these Muslims into America, not with the intention of wanting to become Americans and make America, great and be part of the American experience, but to take over. That's what they do. How do I know? Because we can go all the way back to 622 AD when Muhammad and his followers began their conquest. And their conquest was a very simple procedure. You'd go into a city, you would pretend to be a refugee, you'd get taken in, and then after a short while, once you've got the people are trusting you, you now betray their trust, take over their city, and rape the women and the ones who you don't rape, and the men you take as make as slaves. And this has been their conquest. This is part of history. It is not an Islamic phobic idea. It is part of history. America has been fighting against the Muslims for a long time. Jefferson fought against the Muslim. We have ideas like the leathernecks, the Marines with the leathernecks, which was an idea because you had to protect the necks from the chopping off of the heads that was going on. You had the Barbary Coast battles that were taking place. So it's been a long time that this battle's here. So you now add the Muslims into the deep state. You now have, with the Muslim connection, you now have Saudi Arabia, you have Iran, you have all of the areas where there's a lot of terrorist activity. So now you've got that into the mix. And we have an election with a candidate on the left, Joe Biden, who is completely bought and sold. He's a New World Order puppet. He has the backing of Republicans who are New World Order puppets themselves. He is going in to completely put on the agenda of the extreme left. And so the way that he is going, he's not going to be in charge of anything. He's bought and sold. Bought and completely sold. So under the Biden regime, it would be a completely different agenda. The America that we know would be gone. It would not be the same. We could hear all the extreme threats that are being made. Do you think these are just going to be shut off? Do you think that the violence that is going on is just suddenly going to end and all of the Antifa members are going to suddenly decide they're going to not fight anymore? Do you think that all of the liberals that are out there hating Donald Trump are suddenly going to stop hating Donald Trump? You think the Satanists and the evil people who are casting all the negative energy towards Trump and his supporters is just going to stop? No. It's only going to continue. Because what is going on is a battle between good and evil. Okay, politics is just the arena where it is playing out. But this evilness has made its way into all parts of our society. Look how everything we used to enjoy is now touched by politics, sports, entertainment. It's been like that for a long time, but it's getting worse and worse and worse. Now we have people attacking and fighting with each other. A lot's going on. So we can either look at this as it's all political, or we could look at this as being something bigger than just a political event. Nonetheless, the political event that's taking place is important because it's the moment. It's what's defining the way in which these evil elements are playing themselves out in our society. And we can go through all of history and we can see stories of good versus evil, battles of those wanting power versus those who are trying to stop them. Now, President Trump, he's not part of their New World Order agenda. That is why they are after him. Because for all of those years, from the mid-50s, when Operation Mockingbird was put in place, the media was taken over through the Kennedy assassination, all the way through now, that's 50, 60 years where this deep state has been working to take over. And now they are absolutely at a threat for that. With all the crimes that have been uncovered, it's just a matter of time. So right now is a race to get to that November 3rd election day. We see that the Democrats are doing everything that they can to cheat. It's no longer hidden. It's completely obvious. If you're not seeing it, it's because you're not paying attention. But I know there are more and more people paying attention because I see through the social networks what people are saying and so on. So that's a good thing. Good things are happening. Definitely good things are going on. So Hunter Biden is the big political story that's out there. Continuing on with Rudy Giuliani, he filed a police report on the Hunter Biden laptop alleging child endangerment. That's very important because it ups the ante of what is really going on with this whole case here. Rudy Giuliani, one of President Trump's private attorneys, has reported to Delaware police concerns that material on the laptop reportedly tied to Hunter Biden contained evidence of possible child endangerment. Giuliani, a former U.S. attorney and New York City mayor, confirmed Tuesday night that he went on Monday to local police department in Wilmington to report his concerns of child endangerment and sexual exploitation. Giuliani told the news that former New York Police Department Commissioner Bernard Kerik joined him when he delivered the photographs and text messages. Okay, so we talked about this last night. It's very important that they get involved and very important that it's understood what's going on. Also remember that there was an investigator assigned to this case, the FBI investigator who works with child cases like this, child endangerment cases. So there's something more going on, definitely something more, and people need to know before this man and this challenge and these problems are brought into the office. FBI is saying now the laptop was already tagged for 2019 money laundering probes. So this takes this problem to a whole nother level. Documents obtained by Fox News have labeled the investigation into the purported Hunter Biden laptop with 272DBA 3065729 designation, which indicates it is filed under money laundering at the FBI. According to FBI documents, per the report, 272 is the Bureau's classification for money laundering, while 272D refers to money laundering, unknown, specific, unlawful activity, white-collar crime program. Also, BIA is likely to mean the investigation is being conducted by the Baltimore field office, which has jurisdiction over the Wilmington, Delaware. The report proposes the evidence on the laptop suggests a crime might have been committed. The status of the investigation is unknown, and it is not clear whether Hunter Biden is the subject of any investigation. The FBI cannot open a case without predication, so they believe there was predication for criminal activity. A government official told Fox News this means there was sufficient evidence to believe that there was criminal conduct. The documents were signed by Special Agent Joshua Williams, who has not responded to Fox News' request for comment per the report. Remember, this is Joshua Wilson, who is also part of the child endangerment investigation. So, very interesting there. The documents to subpoena the laptop and take testimony December 9, 2019 are reportedly related to the receipt for property from John Paul Mac Isaac, the Mac shop owner who reported the laptop to the FBI. If a criminal case was opened and subpoenas were issued, that means there is a high likelihood that both the laptop and the hard drive contain fruits of criminal activity. In response to Fox News, Biden campaign spokesman Andrew Bates pointed the investigation to President Donald Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani. The Attorney General of Delaware's office indicated that the FBI has ongoing investigations regarding the veracity of the entire story, and it would be unsurprising for the investigation of a disinformation action involving Rudy Giuliani and those assisting him to involve questions about money laundering, especially since there are other documents required inquiries into the stealing. In fact, Donald Trump's own national security advisor warned the president that materials furnished by Giuliani should be considered tainted by Russian interference. Okay, we know this isn't true because the FBI has already said this. So the Attorney General, who's definitely connected in to the Bidens, is making his Biden-connected speech as one would be expected. As one would be expected. Here we have Chanel Rion. She's got the update here, and she's telling us that multiple OAN reporters have now viewed the emails, photos, and the videos on Hunter Biden's hard drive, and they can confirm that there appear to be not one but several images of minors that need immediate attention. Okay, so problems, and more problems. The rabbit hole gets deeper because it's now involving kids. Remember when Clinton was looked at in the investigation that's going on with her, it involves crimes against children as well. Here we have Hunter Biden witness moved from prison cell after exposing influence-peddling operation. Hunter Biden's former business associate Bevan Cooney, who flipped on the Bidens and exposed an influence-peddling operation, has been moved out of his prison cell, according to Breitbart News. Days after Breitbart News senior contributor Peter Schweitzer and journalist Matthew Tymon published emails provided by Cooney, federal agents moved him from a cell in an Oregon prison around 11 a.m. local time to Tuesday to protect him, according to Time Rand. Bevan could sense that things had changed with the rise and visibility of the story. Cooney is serving time for his part in the 2016 investment scheme for which he believes he was the fall guy. Biden business partner Devon Archer was initially spared jail and handed a second trial. However, a federal appeals court reinstated Archer's fraud conviction in the case earlier this month. They, the Cooney family, believe that alerting the family is the moral thing to do. If anyone in government knows anything regarding Bevan's immediate situation, said Timerand in a statement to Breitbart News, they are hopeful that he is fine and permanently out of the Oregon facility in which he had been detained for over a year. They know he has been highly motivated in bringing transparency to all of the things that he was exposing by sharing the emails directly with me and Peter Schweitzer, given that he was supposed to be released in the coming weeks. Although that he had been recently pushed back without explanation, his motivation lay purely in seeing justice delivered and warning America what he had a front row seat to witness. So this is information that needs to definitely get out there if it is as damning as it would appear. O'Keefe strikes again. Head of global competitive analysis for Google admits that platforms are influencing you in the way that you didn't sign up for. Okay, this is the latest Project Veritas videos out there. The thing I feel worse is that people don't know that it's happening to them. Project Veritas on Wednesday released another bombshell undercover video exposing Google. The head of Google's global competitive analysis admitted the platforms are influencing you in a way that you didn't sign up for. People don't know what is happening to them, Ashwin Agrawal said. There are as much to see the Biden, and you're going to become, the more you see a Biden ad, you're going to become, okay, blah, blah, blah. You're going to become for Biden. Project Veritas on Monday released undercover video of a Google program manager confirming election interference in favor of Joe Biden. When you type Donald Trump, it's all negative, and when you type in Joe Biden, it's all positive. Project Veritas said the Google program manager Ritesh Langhar. He responded by saying it is skewed by owners and drivers of the algorithms. The Justice Department this week sued monopolist Google for violating antitrust laws. Okay, so hopefully there aren't people out there that are surprised by this news about Google. However, I'm guessing there are a lot of people that are surprised, but nonetheless, it's been going on for a long while. These agencies are all connected. Google, Facebook, the DNA companies, the social networks, the other ones out there. These are all connected companies that are working to censor people and censor the information. It's very much, if we think back to the stories we've heard about Nazi Germany and the censorship that was going on, this is like that, but on steroids, because we have now the technology in play. Back then it wasn't this type of technology, but just imagine if Adolf Hitler was running something like Twitter, censoring people left and right, kind of like they're doing right now, or Facebook. It's not the American way at all, yet this is being done, and this is what's been allowed to happen for a long while. Americans have given the thumbs up for the intelligence community to spy on them, and now Americans are finding out, and some of them are shocked. Others aren't shocked, but it needs to be dealt with because it isn't right. Now, this is a reminder of, since Burisma is back in the news, going back to November 21st, 2019, Adam Schiff connected to both companies named in the Burisma-US-Ukraine corruption case. When President Trump's out there talking about Adam Schiff, he lays it on the line that the reason he is not in jail is because he has immunity. He has immunity, but he has also corruption. And one of these days, his time's going to run out, and he's not going to have that immunity. As reported on Wednesday, the head of Burisma Holdings was indicated this week in Ukraine. Prosecutor General indicted owner Nikolai Zlovsky. The claim alleges that Hunter Biden and his partners received $16.5 million over several years for services in Ukraine. Vice President Joe Biden's son Hunter took a lucrative post on the Burisma board in 2014. Hunter was making millions from the corrupt Ukrainian oil and gas company. So we see and we understand definitely what's going on there. Okay, we're going to switch gears here. And last night I started to tell you a little bit about Hillary Clinton and this domain name. So I brought up the Whois, and I'm going to type in so you can see right now, Clinton Harris 2020.com. Hit enter. It's going to go through the search here. There we go. And it tells you Clinton 2020 is already registered. And as we go through here, you can see all of this information about it. Let's see if I can enlarge this a bit here. Tells us it was registered on August 15th, 2020, so not too long ago. It's a private registration, so we're not going to find out who registered this domain, but nonetheless, it is the domain. So I decided, let's look up and see what happened around the time when that domain was purchased, what was going on. And I typed into Google, I went ahead and chose under the tools, custom date, August 1st through August 15th. And as we go through here, we've got stories around the 11th when Joe had picked his running mate. So just prior to them getting that domain. It was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They picked the date there. Obviously, they didn't have a lot of confidence right off the bat if they were going to think about somebody else. So just scroll through here, maybe just see if there's anything that sticks out on why they might have had doubts. What was coming out in the news about them at that time. Okay, so I just thought it would be something just to put there so you have a point of reference. Check it out yourself. Go through these links, see what's there. But something was going on, and they don't fully have confidence. They got a problem. The problem is Joe is very tainted from years and years of corrupt business practices. And now he's trying to hide from that, thinking that he can just hide in the basement, not come out, not talk to people about what's going on. Democrats, I don't know why they would seem fine with that, because it shouldn't be that way for any presidential candidate. But there's such hatred that they don't care. And a lot of people, I think, after the fact, when they really understand what it is that they were resisting, and when they see the truth, I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed in the way they behaved. I think a lot of people are going to look at this time and realize that we weren't using our right sense of looking at things. We weren't standing in our best morals. We weren't using our logical mind. We lost control of how to really do what we knew how to do to, figure out the problems. And then hatred. So we've got to overcome these issues. Now, I'm going to switch gears. For the last couple days, I've been weaving together this story, and I want to continue to do so over the course of time, of the battle that's been going on here on earth of good and evil. And I'm using the Bible as a starting point of looking at what we know of as this particular storyline that we're in right now. And it goes back 6,000 years to the time of Sumer and the stories of the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve. However, what we have been looking at are stories that existed prior to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And those would be stories that would be considered maybe pre-Adamic, because it was pre-Adam. And these stories of the Anunnaki, they go back 450,000 years. So quite some time. And there was a lot of events that happened over that period of time. And when we last left off, I was showing you this definition of these beings called Anak. The Anak is found in the Bible. And we were looking at this definition and page here. The Anak. And Anak descendants are mentioned in narratives concerning the conquest of Canaan and the Israelites. According to the book of Numbers, Anak was a forefather of the Anakim. We have Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker. The Bible describes that they are very tall descendants of the Nephilim. And then there's all these biblical passages. I have a page here where we can just go through and look at a number of them. Numbers says, nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak. Go to Deuteronomy. Whither shall we go up? Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying, the people is greater and taller than we. The cities are great and walled up to heaven. And moreover, we have seen the sons of the Anakims there. The Emims dwell there in past times, the people great and many and tall as the Anakims. Deuteronomy 9:2, a people great and tall, the children of the Anakims, whom thou knowest, and of whom thou hast heard, say, who can stand before the children of Anak? Joshua 11:21 and 22, and at that time came Joshua and cut off the Anakims from the mountain, from Hebron, from Debir, from Anab, and from the mountains of Judah, from all of the mountains of Israel. Joshua destroyed them utterly with their cities. There was none of the Anakims left in the land of the children of Israel, only in Gaza, in Gath, in Ashdod, and remained. Okay, you can see there's a number more. So these Anak look like they might be connected to the Anunnaki, which are these beings that we now have described that have a history going back 450,000 years, if we are to believe the timeline of Zecharia Sitchin and his studies of the Sumerian tablets. So it kind of gives us a point of reference when we see these stories, the pre-Adamic stories, and we see that there is an entire race that evolved over time. And then we have the story where our Bible begins, and we have that group of people there moving forward. We could see that there are more than one group of people. More than one group of people, maybe more than one being that was creating the different people. We had the two brothers and the little Enki that were involved. We have the story in the book of Genesis where Eve gave birth to a child that was given to her by the being claiming to be God. However, this child ended up being the first murderer, so chances that that being was actually God are probably slim to none, because why would God have created a murderer when the whole point was to create life and expand life? So there's much more to meets the eye, and when you put all these stories together, it kind of gives you a little bit more insight to a bigger story of evil and problems in this battle that's been going on for a long, long while. Because even in the Anunnaki, we had the good brother, the bad brother, the fighting with each other. And there seems to be a theme throughout history of brothers, these good and these bad, fighting with each other. So now here we are, we've moved through history. You see examples in the Bible of these beings. We know the stories of the Nephilim. We know the stories here of Book of Enoch. Here we have all of the fallen angels come down, and the fallen angels come down to earth. Tells them they came down on the summit of Mount Hermon. And when they came down, they taught humankind. They took themselves wives. They began to go into them and defile them. Taught them charms, enchantments, cutting roofs. Made them acquainted with plants. Taught them all sorts of things. Taught them some sciences, good ones, maybe bad ones. They began skinning against birds and beasts, reptiles, fish, to devour one another's flesh, to drink blood. So it became real lawless, as it says right here. And then in the book Curse of Canaan, which we talked about and is a good reference book, it says modern day events can be understood only if we can trace their implications in a direct line from the earliest records of antiquity. These records concern pre-Adamic man, a hybrid creature whose origins are described in ancient books. The Book of Enoch, which itself is part of an earlier Book of Noah, written about 161 BC, says that Semyaza, Satan, the leader of the band of the 200 angels, descended on Mount Carmel. They lusted after the daughters of men from afar. They took them for their wives. These fallen angels, known as the Order of the Watchers, taught them their wives magic. The issue of these unions was a race of giants known as Nephilim. The Bible does not mention Nephilim specifically by name, and Strong's Concordance does not list them. However, Nelson's Concordance has several listings under Nephilim. The verses of the Bible to which it refers are 6:4. There were giants in the earth in these days. So, we've got these beings, these giants, these Nephilim. We've got a situation now where the earth is being inhabited with darkness and this gene that was spread through the pre-Adamic race that seemed to mix in with the new batch that was being created. Somehow within all of that mix, we now have a society that's tainted, and God's going to wipe everything out, and Noah's going to continue on with this new opportunity and this fresh start. However, there is someone that is part of that journey that is still tainted, and the seed of that tainted person continues on, and this energies continue, and the practices continue, and nothing is ever wiped out. These practices that were going on in relation to this Canaan are the practices of human sacrifice and all kind of debauchery. Moab, Canaan, these were all big centers for this. And then the Canaanites, as they evolved throughout time, they became the Phoenicians and Venusians, and now where they're in our society, where there are many of these leaders in all forms of our society here in America and around the world. So we have all this darkness. We have all these beings that are trying to claim power and take charge of things. It looks kind of grim and problematic when we look at it. However, we're going to look at the flip side of things now, because while we see that there is darkness, and while we see that there are these people that are running rampant and spreading these evilness, there's a way to counteract all of that. And that's the part of the story that we want to emphasize, because the other stuff's out there. But we don't have to get mixed up with that. We can change that. We can stand against it. That's what's happening right now. But in order to stand against it, we need to know, where is the strength? Where is this power, this God source? Is it these beings that are claiming to be God? Well, I like this book here. It's the Apocryphon of John, or the Secret Book of John. It's in the Nag Hammadi Library. And it says, the teachings of the Savior and the revelation of the mysteries and the things hidden in silence, things he taught his student John. One day, when John, the brother of James, the son of Zebedee, went up to the temple, it happened that a Pharisee named Aramanios came to him and said, where is your teacher, whom you followed? I said to him, he has returned to the place from which he came. The Pharisee said to me, this Nazarene has deceived you badly, filled your ears with lies, closed your mind, and turned you from the traditions of your parents. When I, John, heard this, I turned away from the temple, and I went to a mountainous and barren place. I was distressed, and I said, how was the Savior selected? Why was he sent into this world by his Father? Who is his Father who sent him? And what kind of eternal realm shall we go? And when he was saying this, when he told us, this eternal realm to which you will go is modeled after the incorruptible realm, did he not teach you what kind of realm that one is? At the moment I was thinking about this, the heavens opened up, all creation under heaven lit up, and the world shook. I was afraid, and look, I saw the light, a child standing by me. As I was staring, it seemed to be an elderly person. Again, it changed its appearance to be a youth. Not that there were several figures before me, rather there was a figure with several forms in the light. These forms appeared through each other, and the figure had three forms. The figure said to me, John, why are you doubting? Why are you afraid? Are you not familiar with this figure? Then do not be faint-hearted. I am with you always. I am the Father. I am the Mother. I am the child. I am the incorruptible and the undefiled one. Now I have come to teach you what is, what was, and what is to come, that you may understand what is invisible and what is visible, and to teach you about the unshakable race of perfect humankind. So now lift up your head, that you may understand these things I shall tell you today, that you may relate them to your spiritual friends who are from the unshakable race of perfect humankind. Okay, now you could see in this time that we're in, people going through these kind of questions. There's doubts out in the world. There's attacks on those who are believing in God. The churches are being closed down by these different states. There's a real challenge, and people are questioning why there is so much darkness. Yet the Pharisee is the perfect example of all of the doubters out in the world and the liars who are trying to cause doubts to everyone. So here is the point that we need to hear, because this is the reminder of all that is the good that makes up who we are. This is where Jesus describes the one, God. I asked if I might understand this, and it said to me, the one is a sovereign that has nothing over it. It is a God and Father of all, the invisible one that is over all, that is incorruptible, that is pure light, at which no eye can gaze. The one is the invisible spirit. We should not think of it as a god or like a god, for it is greater than a god, because it has nothing over it and no lord above it. It does not exist within anything inferior to it, since everything exists within it alone. It is eternal, since it does not need anything, for it is absolutely complete. It has never lacked anything in order to be completed by it. Rather, it is always absolutely complete in light. The one is illimitable, since there is nothing before it to limit it; unfathomable, since there is nothing before it to fathom it; immeasurable, since there was nothing before it to measure it; invisible, since nothing has seen it; eternal, since it exists eternally; unutterable, since nothing could comprehend it to utter it; unnameable, since there is nothing before it to give it a name. The one is the immeasurable light, pure, holy, immaculate. The one is unutterable and is perfect in incorruptibility. Not that it is part of perfection or blessedness or divinity, it is much greater. The one is not corporal, and it is not incorporeal. The one is not large, and is not small. It is impossible to say how much it is, or what kind it is, for no one can understand it. The one is not among the things that exist, but is much greater. Not that it is greater, rather, as it is in itself. It is not part of the eternal realms of time, for whatever is part of the realm was once prepared by another. Time was not allotted to it, since it receives nothing from anyone. What would be received would be on loan. The one who is the first does not need anything to receive anything from another. Such a one beholds itself in the light. The one is majestic and has immeasurable purity. The one is a realm that gives a realm, life that gives a life, a blessed one that gives blessedness, knowledge that gives knowledge, a good one that gives goodness, mercy that gives mercy, and redemption, grace that gives grace. Not as if the one possesses all this, rather it is the one gives immeasurable and incomprehensible light. What shall I tell you about it? Its eternal realm is incorruptible, at peace, dwelling in silence, at rest, before everything. It is the head of all realms, and it sustains them through its goodness. We would not know what is ineffable. We would not understand what it is, immeasurable, were it not for what has come from the Father. This is the one who has told these things to us alone. Now we have Barbello, which is a name that is being described here. Now this Father is the one who beholds himself in the light surrounding him, which is the spring of living water, and provides all the realms. He reflects on his image everywhere, sees it in the spring of the Spirit, and becomes enamored of his luminous water. For his image is in the spring of pure luminous water surrounding him. The Father's thought becomes a reality, and she, who appeared in the presence of the Father in shining light, came forth. She is the first power who preceded everything and came forth from the Father's mind as forethought of all. Her light shines like the Father's light. She, the perfect power, is the image of the perfect and invisible Virgin Spirit. She, the first power, the glory of Barbello, the perfect glory among the realms, the glory of revelation. She glorified and praised the Virgin Spirit, for because of the Spirit she had come forth. She is the first thought, the image of the Spirit. She became the universal womb, for she precedes everything. The Mother, Father, the first human, the Holy Spirit, the triple male, the triple power, the androgynous one with three names, the eternal realm among the invisible beings, the first to come forth. And then Barbello asked the invisible Virgin Spirit to give her foreknowledge, and the Spirit consented. When the Spirit consented, foreknowledge appeared and stood by forethought. This is the one who came from the thought of the invisible Virgin Spirit. Foreknowledge glorified the Spirit and the Spirit's perfect power. Barbello, for because of her, foreknowledge had come into being. She asked again to be given incorruptibility, and the Spirit consented. When the Spirit consented, incorruptibility appeared and stood by thought and foreknowledge. Incorruptibility glorified the invisible one and Barbello. Because of her, they had come into being. Barbello asked to be given life eternal, and the invisible Spirit consented. And when Spirit consented, life eternally appeared, and they stood together and glorified the invisible Spirit and Barbello. Because of her, they had come into being. She asked again to be given truth, and the invisible Spirit consented. Truth appeared, and they stood together and glorified the good invisible Spirit and its Barbello. Because of her, they had come into being. This is the Father's realm of five. It is the first human, the image of the invisible Spirit, that is forethought, which is Barbello, and thought, along with foreknowledge, incorruptibility, life, eternal truth. This is the androgynous realm of five, which is the realm of 10, which is the Father. Okay, so now up to this point, we have a description of divinity that is beyond all descriptions of human beings. This is forms that are formlessness and formed and all kind of other things is described here. But this, to me, is just really amazing the way it is described and how it's describing this divine spirit, this divine essence that we have available to us. So up to this point, we have the first Father energy, looking at the energies around him, the water, and what comes forth is this feminine presence, at which point it is understood that this watery feminine presence that exists everywhere was there present all the time, as was this conscious thought of the masculine, the male father coming forth from that. And now we're going to have the interaction of the two, and this is where the idea of the Christ light is born, right in this phase here. The Father gazed into Barbello, and with the pure light surrounding the invisible spirit and its radiance, Barbello conceived from it and produced a spark of light similar to the blessed light, but not as great. This was the only child of the mother Father that had come forth, its only offspring, the only child of the Father, the pure light. The invisible virgin spirit rejoiced over the light that was produced, that came forth first from the first power of the Spirit's forethought, who is Barbello. The Spirit anointed it with its own goodness until it was perfect, with no lack of goodness, since it was anointed with the goodness of the invisible Spirit. The child stood in the presence of the Spirit as the Spirit anointed the child. When the child received this from the Spirit, at once it glorified the Holy Spirit in perfect forethought. Because of her it had come forth. The child asked to be given mind as the companion to work with the Spirit consented. When the invisible Spirit consented, mind appeared and stood by the anointed and glorified the Spirit in Barbello. All these beings came into existence in silence. Mind wished to create something by means of the world of the invisible Spirit. Its will became a reality and appeared with mind and the light glorifying it. Word followed will. For the anointed, the self-conceived God created everything by the word. Life eternal, will, mind, and foreknowledge stood together and glorified in the invisible Spirit and Barbello, for because of her they had come into being. The Holy Spirit brought the self-conceived divine child of itself and Barbello to perfection, so that the child might stand before the great invisible Virgin Spirit as the self-conceived God, the anointed, who honored the Spirit with loud acclaim. The child came forth through forethought. The invisible Virgin Spirit set the true self-conceived God over everything and caused all authority and the truth within the subject to it, so that the child might understand everything, the one called by a name greater than that, for that name will be told to those who are worthy of it. Now from that light which is the anointed in incorruptibility, and by the grace of the Spirit, the four luminaries that derive from the self-conceived God gazed out into order and stand before it. The three beings are will, thought, life, The four powers: understanding, grace, perception, thought. Grace dwells in the eternal realm of the luminary Hamarziel, who is the first angel. There are three other realms within this eternal realm. Okay, so what we have here, I'm going to stop at this point here. But what we have here is we have the Christ light. The divine autogens is one of the names that is referred to as well. This is this Christ light which has now been given charge to go out and create all things. And so it is this divine spirit that was so eloquently described, filled with all of this essence of goodness and perfection and incorruptibility. This is the essence, the spirit that is available for each and every human being, each and every being on this planet. This is the essence that Jesus brought down into this world, this Christ light that shine bright. The same Christ light that Jesus says we can all bring into our lives as we reach out to this divine essence that is out there in the world. And as we do and we bring that light down, we shine. And that is the objective, that to continue this flow of this light onward and onward and onward. So why is it important that we understand about this light? Because as we are moving through this world, we're encountering darkness. And as we encounter the darkness, we often run into the challenge of how do we deal with the darkness? The way we deal with the darkness is we turn on the light. And the light is not outside of ourselves. The light is inside of ourselves. Because it is this Christ light that is shining through each and every one of us. We can either allow that light to shine, or we can stop it. You know the song, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." Well, we got to let our light shine. We got to let our light shine out into the world. And as each and every individual allows the Christ light that's flowing through them to shine bright into this world, we become a beacon. We connect, light connects with other light, and it becomes brighter and brighter, and pretty soon the darkness dissipates. You can't help it. It's because right now we're at a moment in time where this light is blocked, and it's being blocked intentionally. And one of the things that blocks it is fear. We have all kind of ways in this earth, and all of the beings throughout time that have had these dark intentions that have evolved from the Anunnaki races and the pre-Adamic races and the mixing that went on and the evil and the depravity. It's still here, and we're battling that. And all of that has made efforts to really keep the children of light from shining bright by bringing fears and doubts into their reality. So what I have for us today to look at is I want to look at, these are called end times. End times, brother against brother, so we kind of understand a little bit more that what's happening is something that was discussed and prophesied. 2 Timothy 3. But understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty. People will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness but denying its power. Avoid such people. Luke 12:53. They will be divided, father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Matthew 24:7. For nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. Mark 13:12. Brother will devour brother, deliver brother over to death, and the father his child, and the children will rise up against his parents and have them put to death. Matthew 10:21. Brother will deliver brother over to death, and the father his child, and the children will rise in parents and have them put to death. Matthew 24:14. and the gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Matthew 24:10, many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. Mark 13:12, the brother will deliver brother over to death, father to his child, children will rise up against parents, have them put to death. You will be hated by all for my name's sake, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. Matthew 24:3, as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be? What will be the sign of the coming and the close of the age?" Luke 12:52-53. From now on, in one house there will be 5 divided, 3 against 2, 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter, daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Matthew 24:12, because of lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. Okay, but let's look further. It's not all dim and bleak as we see. Matthew 24 says that Jesus left the temple. He was walking away. His disciples came up to him to point out its buildings. "You see these things?" he replied. "Truly, I tell you that not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down." While Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, his disciples came to him privately. "Tell us," they said, "when will these things happen? And what will be the sign of your coming in the end of the age?" Jesus answered, "See to it that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am the Christ,' and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. These things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines, earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginnings of the birth pains. Then they will deliver you over to be prosecuted and killed, and you will be hated by all the nations because of my name. At that time, many will fall away and betray and hate one another. Many false prophets will arise and mislead many. Because of the multiplication of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. But the one who perseveres to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the world as testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. When you see standing in the holy place the abomination of desolation described by the prophet Daniel, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop come down to retrieve anything from his house, and let no one in the field return for his cloak. How miserable those days will be for the pregnant and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not occur in the winter or on the Sabbath. For at that time there will be great tribulation, unmatched from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be seen again. If those days had not been cut short, nobody would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. At that time, if anyone says to you, 'Look, here is the Christ,' or 'There he is,' do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders that would deceive even the elect, if that were possible. See, I have told you in advance. So if they tell you, 'There he is in the wilderness,' do not go out. Or 'Here he is in inner rooms,' do not believe it. For just as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far to the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there will be vultures gathered. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. At that time, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. He will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the 4 winds and from one end of the heavens of the other. Now learn the lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its branches become tender and sprout leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see all these things, you will know that he is near, right at the door. Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. No one knows about the day or the hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be in the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and given in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they were oblivious until the flood came and swept them all away. So will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken, the other left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one taken, the other left. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know the day on which your Lord will come. But understand this, if the homeowner had known in which watch of the night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. For this reason you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour that you do not expect. Who then is faithful and wise servant, whom the master has put in charge of his household to give the others their food at the proper time? Blessed is the servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all of his possessions. But suppose that the servant is wicked and says in his heart, my master will be away a long time, and he begins to beat his fellow servants and eat and drink with drunkards. The master of the servant will come one day he does not expect, at an hour he does not anticipate. Then he will cut him to pieces and assign him to a place with the hypocrites, where there be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So, a lot can happen in the end times, which I believe that we're in these end times. Here we have Luke 2:3. Therefore whatsoever ye spoken of in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye have spoken in the ears of closets shall be proclaimed on the housetops. We're in a time right now where things in the dark are being exposed. We're in a time where there's lots of doubts and fears out in the world, intentionally being put into the world by those in the mainstream media, by those in politics, and just in general. But we also have a lot of hope and a lot of faith to contradict all of these challenges. We have this spirit of the Christ light that shines through us, that shines through all of life. We have the example of Jesus Christ, who came and showed us how to stand strong and stand against all of these dark energies that are here. And so if we use this true wisdom and we truly understand the power of light that is flowing through us, the power of this Christ energy, if we truly believe the words that we were taught through these biblical studies, through these scriptures, then we find that these times shouldn't be the challenge, because good wins. God wins. And all we have to do is shine the light in us in order to illuminate the world, to get rid of all the darkness that is here. And one by one we do it. We're all in this together. So let us quickly pray. Heavenly Father, Mother, divine Christ that shines through us, help us to see clearly the path before us. Help us to find the strength to shine bright the light that you share with each and every one of us. May we be examples to each other of how to share this light, to share this goodness, and to share the promise of victory. In Jesus' name, amen. That's it, my friends. That is the show for today. I'll be back tomorrow. I appreciate you being here. Keep the faith. Challenges are out there, but this is the battle. And time for the children of light to step up, be the children of light, and shine bright that which we have to shine. I'll be back tomorrow. Peace. I'm out of here.